Welcome to this episode of the Brush and Soap and Blade Podcast, where we look forward to shaving every day. Welcome to episode 49 of the podcast. My name is Rick DeWeese. I'll be your host this week. This week, we've got a couple of letters. I also tried a sample of some soap that was sent to me from one of my friends on Facebook. And this is a handcrafted Artisan soap coming out of Iowa, so thank you very much for that. I talk about the razor of the week. Now, as promised last week, I sent a picture of my shave of the day, and in fact, this razor and soap combination, as well as my a picture of my brush to go along with it, to Ian, and luckily he didn't spill the beans and tell you guys what I was going to talk about this week. So thank you, Ian. I appreciate it. I also do a quick review on a Bic Chrome Platinum blade that I've been using kind of off and on this week while everything else has been going on, and so we'll talk about that. Finally, I kind of ask a question here, and the question is pretty simple. Why aren't all of us shaving better? You know, it's there's a reason for it, and we'll start off with an article that kind of lays some groundwork as to why. Well, as a public in America, why? Well, we're not shaving better. The technology is, well, potentially out there, but lo and behold, we're not using it. At least not everywhere. Some of us are, but not everyone is. And the question that you kind of ask yourself sometimes is, well, why is that? And it's maybe not for the reason, well, that you think. So anyhow, let's get on with this show and see where we end up. So I got a letter from David. Dear Rick, I'm writing to you from my vacation in Austria. We listened to episode 48 in the car on our way down to Austria. The kids, who don't understand English yet, were laughing every time they heard you say Antonio and Raphael. At first they didn't believe me that you were talking about them, but after they heard their names for the third time, they did believe me and found it very cool to be featured on a radio show. Anyways, thank you so much for the kind words. They mean a lot. And the rant at the end, which was not a rant, was absolutely true and beautiful. A nice coincidence is that I bought the L'Occitane Plisson 2 last week. I totally agree with you. This brush is absolutely fantastic. I own an expensive Mule Badger Silvertip brush, which is really good, but I prefer the Plisson. Raphael thinks that it's very cuddly. The perfect description, in my opinion, and he loves it too. Another nice coincidence, Raphael and Antonio got their first Victorinox in June this year, and they loved to carve wood sticks with it. I agree that we parents don't have to be afraid and that we can trust our kids. They know that a knife is sharp, and they handle it with care. Raphael, who is 5, cut himself once, but I guess that this is part of the experience. All the best, dear shaving friend, and God bless, David. Well, David, thank you very much for your letter. Hopefully, you have had an excellent trip and vacation in Austria. When I was over in Europe, I never made it to Austria. Made it to Switzerland, Italy, Germany, but never made it to Austria. Just never got that far. But great times, great memories. So, good stuff. It's really great that the kids enjoy the fact that they got mentioned on the show. That's one of the reasons I do it, is to give people something to enjoy in life. You know, those little moments. I mean, those are the things that make it kind of worth it. You know. Yeah, and great thing on the L'Occitane Plisson. I've been using it for this past week, and well, I must say that I picked up my Badger once, and the rest of the time I was using my new synthetic. Great brush. I don't know. I mean, I really don't know if anything else can truly compare. I think that I would end up having to get way up into the price range to have a natural hair brush feel as nice as that Plisson does. It's really been rather magical. I've actually thought about it to a certain extent, thinking, okay, so now I can't talk about brushes anymore because I've reached the pinnacle. So if anybody knows a brush out there that is better than the Plisson synthetic, for softness, not necessarily for backbone or anything like that, but just for softness, let me know, because I don't, and I'm a little dismayed because, it's kind of like, once you get the Holy Grail, where do you go from there? It's one of those things. Great report on the knife adventures. Yes, kids will cut themselves. It happens. We've all been there. I mean, I still have a couple of scars that when I was a very young child, I cut myself with a knife. But guess what? That is, in fact, part of the game. That is how we learn. That is how we learn that, yes, in fact, it is sharp, and you need to watch out for that. No matter how many times people tell you, don't cut towards yourself, you're going to do it, and you're going to cut yourself. It's kind of like, no matter how many times somebody says something like, reapply the lather so that your razor doesn't skip, you're not going to do it. It's going to skip, and, it's almost like, yeah, you don't know what you're talking about, kind of like being a teenager, I guess, And eventually it's going to happen, and it's going to skip, and you're going to nick yourself, and with a straight razor, someone's going to tell you, be careful, don't cut, just don't pull the blade, across your face, because it will cut you, and, you're not going to pay attention one day, and lo and behold, you're going to cut yourself and go, dang, I knew that was going to happen, and it does, and, well, that's how you learn. The good news is that we heal, and we learn from the experience so that we can continue on to share it with other people and hopefully someday share it with our children. So anyhow, David, great letter again. Thank you very much. Writing from Austria, so good stuff there. Hope you guys have a fabulous vacation. Thank you very much for the letter. I got a letter titled The Electric Jungle from Mark. Remember the 3 great lies. The check is in the mail. I'll respect you in the morning. This electric shaver gives you a shave as close as a blade. I remember growing tired of the can of goo and the disposable scratch sticks. I spent good money to get one of these Braun MicroShield razors. After spending all that money, you want to convince yourself that the bad shave you got wasn't because of the razor. I remember going to the book and reading that I was holding that I had to hold the razor straight against my face. When this didn't work, I tried the Williams Electric Shave Pre-Shave Lotion. This was a combination of oil and chemicals that was supposed to dry your face off and oil it up so that the razor would give you a smooth shave. It didn't really improve the shave much, plus on a hot summer day, going outside with the oily residue it left was horrible. Of course, there is nothing like shaving in the shower or with a face covered with foam, so they sold an electric shaver that you could use in the shower. When you clean out an electric razor, it's not so much the hairs you are cleaning out, but white flakes of dead skin. This skin is usually removed when we use a shaving brush and lather. On an electric razor, it all gathers in a disgusting mess when you clean out the razor. The razors that you take into the shower have soap residue in the mixture. They usually include a small brush to help you with the task. Yuck, dead skin, hair bristles, and soap stuck inside your razor. Just the thing to brighten up your morning shave. So I would return to the goo and scratch sticks until the next TV ad I would see for an electric razor, which would give me a shave as good as a blade. I now have a drawer full of electric razors laughing at me. The rash and razor burn from these gadgets made shaving a chore, and a painful one at that. Insanity was once described as doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. I know now that if I ever buy another electric shaver for myself, I better walk around with my arms out. That way it will be harder for them to put the net over me. Love the podcast, Mark. Thank you very much, Mark, for the letter. I really appreciate it. I, too, started out with an electric shaver, but back then I didn't have much to shave. So I never used any foam or oils or, electric shave or anything like that. It is just straight, shaving with the electric razor, just trying to get it down to a dull roar. But I understand, having to clean it out and all that, and it was a mess just with stubble. So, having foam and everything else in there, ugh. I agree with you. Anyhow, thank you very much for the letter. I do appreciate it. And the words that you spoke, I would return to the same thing I had until the next TV ad that said it would give me a shave as good as a blade. Marketing was successful, wasn't it? Think about that for a minute. Sometimes we think, it didn't work on me. Yeah, it did. I mean, I can tell you right now, there's a lot of stuff that I have was because I succumbed to marketing. It's just one of those things. But when you realize it, when you finally realize what is happening and what they're doing to you, that's when you can go, okay. Maybe I won't take their advice. Maybe I won't give them my dime. Anyhow, thank you very much, Mark. I appreciate the letter. So the soap that I have been playing around with this week is a soap that's made by an artisan out of Des Moines, Iowa. Now, the soap is made by Martha, and if you're interested, there's a couple of ways to find it. There's an Etsy store called Murphs-Crafts. There's also a website, Murphs-Crafts.com, MURPHS-CRAFTS, crafts.com. There's also a Facebook page, Murphs Crafts, all one word. So the way that I ended up with this soap was Joey on Facebook had offered to, he had a couple of extra samples, and he offered to send someone some samples if they would review them and let everybody know what they thought. So I said, well, okay, I'll go ahead and, you never know, every now and then you might find something interesting. And so I went ahead and messaged him and said, yeah, I'll give it a shot and I'll review it on the podcast, and we'll see. So here is someone who took it upon themselves with their own, paying their own cost of shipping, sent me a couple of samples of the Murphs Crafts shaving. It's shaving lotion natural soap. Now, he said that she's a soap maker out of Des Moines, Iowa, and in his opinion, makes a really, really good soap. Okay, so if you once I got it, there was the label on it, and it's handmade with coconut oil, lard, soybean oil, sodium hydroxide, shea butter, cocoa butter, olive oil, and shaved soap pieces. Okay, and it's about a 4-ounce block of soap, and looks like it costs about $5. And I think he said that he picked it up at a farmer's market, and that's where he gets it, and he uses it for shaving. Okay, so I went ahead, and the first time I tried it, there was a small square chunk in there, and I just held that square chunk in my hand and loaded up the brush. I was using my synthetic brush, and just to see what would happen. And when I thought the brush was loaded adequately, I went ahead and tried to bowl lather with it. What I found is that this stuff just, when it gets any water of any quantity at all in it, it just, foams. It becomes exceedingly bubbly, no lather at all, just, soap foam. Okay, so let's step back a little bit and figure out if we can get a decent lather with this stuff. So what I did was I took my brush, and instead of adding any water or doing anything, I knocked as much water out of the brush as I could and loaded again. I loaded the brush until I thought it was, excessively overloaded, And then I went ahead and bowl lathered with that, added, I think, a quarter teaspoon of water, and that seemed to be about as much water as I could get the stuff to take without just absolutely turning into a foamy mess. Now, what ends up happening then is the lather that you get is, well, rather dry. Now, the nice thing is that even though the lather itself was rather dry, the performance of it wasn't too bad, in partially because of the oils and things that are naturally in the soap. But it was a little drier than I was used to in order to get a lasting foam. If I put any extra water in the stuff at all, what would end up happening is it would start to foam and start to kind of break down from a lather perspective, and it would dry on your face, and the lather would kind of disappear and things like that. So I tried it with the synthetic brush, just like I said, loading off the sample the first day, and that didn't work too well. So the next time I used it, what I did is I took the little bit bigger sample and heated it up slowly in the microwave and pressed it into the bottom of a salsa bowl. And I figured what I would do is the first time I would try to just load the brush out of that to see if I couldn't get a really heavy load on the brush. And then I would switch over to another bowl and bowl lather with it. What I found is that it actually worked a little better if I just continually loaded in the bowl that had the soap. Now again, it wouldn't take any extra water. I tried my bore brush, wouldn't take any extra water essentially. The water, what I normally use to load and then add 2 teaspoons on top of that was way too much on this soap. It was very evident when I cleaned out my razor, for example, that again, I'm cleaning it out in a salsa bowl, just kind of swishing it back and forth rapidly, and just that agitation and the soap that was on the razor that had been on my face basically ended up making a foamy, soapy, residue almost. Just kind of foamed out of the rinse bowl, if you will. So I said, okay, let's keep trying this, because I did say I would test it. What I ended up doing is I would shake the brush out, soak the brush, and I've tried this with my synthetic bore brush and then my Volfex Badger, and they've all acted about the same. As long as I keep the soap relatively dry, if you will, I can get a lather out of it. But I don't know if it's so much a lather as it is just heavy soap, to be quite honest. I ran into the same difficulty with the soap that I purchased over at the farmer's market that was a rosemary and basil, that I absolutely adored the scent of this stuff, but I had exactly the same issues with it, and I ended up just using it in the shower. Now, as a shower soap, as a shower shaver, okay, at one time, this soap would actually do very, very well there. Because, when I was doing that back in the day, I wasn't using a brush. I was just soaping up on my hands, applying the soap to my face like I would normally would, and then shave. In that regard, this soap would actually be very, very handy and very nice, very quick. And for that, this would be good stuff. The smell of it was really, really nice. I really enjoyed it. It, from that aspect, it was really good. But as a traditional shaving soap that you would use with a brush, it didn't react positively to a brush at all, and at least for me. I've tried on multiple occasions, whether I was shaving or not, just to sit down and see if I could figure out how to make this stuff work. And essentially everything that I would do, as soon as it got any extra water in it, it would just, foam up. So that's kind of what I ended up with. Like I said, she does have a website. She makes natural soap, goat milk soaps, and some specialty soaps. She's been making them for a long time. She makes them in small batches in her kitchen. She does cold process, hot process, and melt and pour soaps. She uses really nice ingredients. Now, one thing that I can say is at the end of the shave, the skin feel is very, very nice. I mean, it really, from that aspect, it's a very nice soap. I just don't know if it's good for traditional wet shaving. The smells were very, very nice, and as a just regular soap or a soap that you would use in the shower, if you happen to keep a razor in the shower and do it that way, which is what I used to do, it would work very, very nicely. And I would probably, say that would be the way to go with this stuff. But again, as a traditional shaving soap that you would use with a brush, the brush is just, it's just too much for it. It just over foams and, kind of turns back into soap. So it has been an interesting adventure. It was one of those things where, I wanted to give it a shot. Again, you never know. And that's how you learn, is trying things. And who knows, maybe I would have learned, I could have learned something that was, my technique of lathering or something like that was maybe lacking. And so that was good. I think the other thing that is interesting is that when you go to her website, it's called a shaving lotion natural soap. It's not necessarily called a shaving soap. So, maybe we're expecting a little bit too much out of this stuff. But, it's, like I said, a very, very nice soap. She's got multiple different kinds, natural honey oatmeal, cucumbers. She's got a Gardner mechanic soap that I'm sure has other stuff in it, maybe a little bit of sand or something like that, some kind of grit to clean the stuff off of your hands. She's also got a Bye Bye Itch soap, which I find interesting. A lemongrass and lavender soap. 7 Thieves natural soap. That's interesting. She's got a very long list of soaps, and I find that intriguing. So if you happen to be into, and those are her natural soaps. She's also got goat milk soaps, a couple of those. So that's rather nice. So she does sell out of the Des Moines area. She does go to the farmers markets over there, as well as having a presence on the internet, both in Etsy and in Facebook and on the web at her website. And the website, I'll put a link up to it. It's Murphs-Crafts.com, Murphs-Crafts.com. So if you're looking for a good soap and want to play around with some handmade soap out of Des Moines, Iowa, go check out Murphs. And it has been an interesting experiment this week playing around with her soap. And I greatly appreciate the fact that someone on Facebook, Joey in particular, sent me a sample. That's always nice. He thought it was a good soap to use, and for him, it obviously is working very well. For him to go to the trouble to try to get the word out, I think is very admirable. So, Murph, you've got somebody out there who's helping you out with a little bit of advertising, and who knows? Hopefully, this has helped a little bit too. Now, I would also like to report, because I did try the Murphs-Crafts Shaving Lotion Natural Soap. I did try it. I took the remaining chunk that I had, and I took it into the shower with my little Schick G1 razor, and lathered up and shower shaved. Didn't use a brush or anything like that. Just shower shaved with this little chunk of soap and my Schick razor. Now, the thing that was interesting is that even in my hands in the shower, this soap didn't really want to lather well. It would kind of suds up a little bit, but if you left it on your hand for just a little bit, the soap would, kind of disappear on you. As soon as any moisture hit it, it was slick again, so it had, fairly good glide from that respect. but virtually, or very little anyhow, very little lather, and very little cushioning, because there wasn't any lather to cushion with. Now, in the shower, I will admit that I got a very, very nice shave with it. I had to, soak my hands up a couple of times with it and do that. But in the shower, it did a very, very nice job with my Schick injector. So, I was thinking, while I was talking about it the other day, that, well, okay, maybe if I abandoned the brush and just use it as a soap in the shower and shave, well, like I used to, that it would, take away some of the issues that I have with this soap. And it performed well, but I still have the issue of it being, well, rather hard to lather. So I have done my best. I have tried just about every combination that I can think of with the Murphs-Crafts Soap. It does have a very nice smell to it. I really enjoy it from that aspect, but for a shave soap with the lathering issues that I have, I don't know. It's for me, it just didn't work well. Not as well as some. Anyhow, that's my report on the shower shaving go around with the Murphs-Crafts Soap. So as promised, I sent Ian an email and told him about the razor, well, before everybody else. So guess what? Now it's your turn. So the razor that I have been using this week is an old Ever-Sharp Schick Injector razor. I bought this off of eBay. It's a Type G1 model. I have it dated somewhere between 1950 and 1953. It came with a little red case with the clear plastic cover. And overall, it's not in bad shape. It cleaned up fairly nicely. The only thing that is a bit, well, not necessarily damaged, but I guess corroded is the best word, is the piece that goes in between the handle and the actual brass of the razor. Now, the handle itself is kind of an ivory-looking plastic with the seam up the middle. And so that helped me kind of date it as well. It's a nice design. It's very simple. I mean, when you first look at it, you think to yourself, okay, how solid can this be? Because it's just a fairly thin piece of brass that, well, that's the razor. And amazingly, it is actually very, very sturdy. It's really been a joy to use. I look at it with great intrigue, thinking to myself, why doesn't somebody make these, today? Again, they don't look that difficult to manufacture, and quite honestly, they do a good job shaving. It's really been rather, well, impressive. And I'm surprised, quite honestly, because, the patents have ran out long ago. And, thinking to myself, this little injector razor is not, looking at it anyhow, it's not something that would be terribly difficult to make, to bend the brass in those particular shapes. There would be some setup cost and everything, but overall, it's a fairly simple yet elegant design. Okay, so I have a razor here in my hand, that's at least 60 years old. Now, the Schick, the Schick-made injectors, from 1935 to 1999, so they stayed around for a long, long time. They had a long history. And, in fact, the history of the Schick injectors was so long that when anybody talked about injector razors, they automatically thought of the Schick injector. Other companies had injector razors, but the only big name that, it's kind of like, okay, if you reach for a tissue, what do you call it? You call it a Kleenex, okay? Well, it's the same kind of thing. If you reached for an injector, well, you called it a Schick. That was just the standard name for the injectors. That's how popular they were. So anyhow, I had purchased this, won it actually off of eBay, a week or so ago, And I had been waiting for it to come in. I had never had an injector like this. I have, been looking at them, and I've seen them. I've always been intrigued by them. It was one of those things that, you look at the shape and you go, wow, that's pretty cool. It's kind of neat. I was always wondering, because they are so relatively thin right there at the handle area, does it bend? Does it flex? And it does just a little bit. I mean, it's not bad. But you think to yourself, okay, how heavy duty is this? Is this going to last? I mean, is it going to flop around and wobble? I mean, does the head come loose out of the handle? I'd never had one. And in fact, quite honestly, I'd seen them in the antique stores, but quite honestly, well, I'd never picked them up either. And the reason that I'd never picked them up previously is because, well, I wasn't into Schick injectors. So it was, an injector razor was different. It was like, I'm into double-edged, I want the Gillette. I want the classic Gillette silo door 3-piece razor, that opens and closes and you drop the blade in there. And, I want one of those. I don't, an injector. Too modern. And then I started getting into single-edge razors, and, it was kind of like, ooh, these are cool. These really shave nicely. And so finally I, about a month back, I got an injector and went, wow, those do a pretty doggone good job. And so I had been waiting, I'd been waiting around for this thing to show up so I could use it because I was very intrigued by it. And with the Schick injector blades that I got, again from drugstore.com, it was the best price I could get for them. I think it was $4.99 for a pack of 7, which was, like I said, the best price. It has really done a very, very nice job. I'm impressed by the thinness of the head. When you look at the head, it's easily half of what a Gillette double-edged razor is. And, if you look at the single-edged razors, they're about the same size as the double-edged razors. And so the injector razor is much smaller of a head. And so it's very easy to get into tight places. It's very light. It doesn't have the mass. It's probably half the weight of a, I'm holding the Schick G1 in one hand and a Gillette Aristocrat in the other, and it's easily half the weight. It's made out of brass, the same base metal as the Aristocrat is, but it's easily half the weight, if not just a little bit less. And all of the weight is, because it's a plastic handle, all of the weight is centered, well, up in the head, which makes for a very well-balanced, easy-to-maneuver shave. So I've really been impressed with this little razor. And, of course, everybody should have one of these. And I've always, maybe not coveted, but at least really desired one, just so I could, have the experience. Because, well, it's classic. It's kind of like, okay, so, you got the Fat Boy and you got the flare tip and, okay, you got a couple of techs, but do you have a Schick injector? Do you have a G-Series Schick injector? Well, now I've got one. And it delivered very, very nice shaves for me, and I've been very happy. And so, like I said last week, I sent Ian a picture of it with some descriptions of the soap that I'll talk about here in a little bit, and told him where everything came from. And so, hopefully he got it and enjoyed it. It has been nice. Great little razor. If you haven't tried an injector razor, quite honestly, so far I haven't bought one that I thought I made a mistake. I would recommend an injector razor if you want to try something new and different. Or if you already have an injector razor, reach out and try a few different models, because so far I have not been displeased with any of them. Great little razors, great shaves, very nice. And well worth my time, and, well, in this case, my $8. So this week, in addition to shaving with my Schick G1 Injector razor, I have also been shaving a couple of times this week, and it only has been 2 or 3, with a Bic Chrome Platinum blade in my Aristocrat razor. A couple of days, I had some issues with my skin. It was, having some problems, and I just needed something that was, a little bit easier on the skin, and so I used the Bic and my Aristocrat, knowing that my Aristocrat is a very, very gentle shaver, somewhere in the about the 4 range on the fat boy scale, if you will. And so I threw the Bic Chrome Platinum blade in it, and that was part of the package that I got a long time ago from Tri-Blade. I still haven't gone through all of his blades, but this was one of them in the package. And a little bit about this blade. They're chrome platinum coated. They're known for being very smooth, and the first shave was in fact very smooth, and the follow-up shaves were pretty smooth as well. It's also the only double-edged razor to come from Greece. It's manufactured by Bic in Greece, and so far it's done a very nice job. Now, for me, it's a medium blade, a middle-of-the-road blade, if you will. It's not top of the class, by any means, but it's also not bottom of the barrel either. If somebody was to hand me a Bic versus a Lord, I would take the Bic all day long and thank them very much. Some of the other ones that I've tried, I've tried the Big Ben. It's an Egyptian blade. It's okay, maybe a Derby out of Turkey. It's I'd put it along those lines. For me, a feather is much better. A Gillette Silver Blue is better. Even a Rapira is very nice for me. So it's not top shelf when it comes to blades, but it's not bottom shelf either. It's definitely right solidly in the middle. I haven't gotten any nicks or cuts from this thing. It hasn't wounded me in any way, shape, or form, so it's not that. It's just that I find my stubble returns quickly with it. I find that that's the biggest thing for me, is that it returns quickly. It doesn't shave quite as close as some of my, what I would call top shelf blades do. But anyhow, that's just a quick kind of back of the hand review of the Bic Platinum blade, the Bic Chrome Platinum blade. I've been pleased with them. I would, if I didn't have access to something else, I would probably be quite happy with buying a box of 100 of those things. So far I've enjoyed them. It has given me good shaves. I suspect that I will get another 3 or 4 shaves out of this thing to put the ultimate count of shaves with it up around the 5 or maybe even 6 range. So from that aspect, it seems to be very durable. It hasn't really slowed down or been any less performant as time goes on. So anyhow, that's my quick review of the Bic Chrome Platinum blade. And like I said, if you're looking for a blade to try, that's a good one. And like I said, I bought it at Tri-Blade. Still haven't gone through all the blades. So it's one of those things where you think, yeah, this is a good idea, and then you go, oh my gosh, now I gotta try them all. Holy cow! That's just it happens. So anyhow, there you go, review of the Bic double-edged blade. So just to illustrate the point that I'm not the only one that thinks this, let me read from a blog column from Callum Mackay. I'll link to it too. And the article written by Callum is How Intellectual Property Destroyed Men's Shaving. Well over a century ago, a salesman named King Gillette patented the design for his safety razor and went on to found the Gillette Safety Razor Company. His invention made him wealthy as American men rushed to buy his razor blades. Gillette did not invent the safety razor itself, but rather found a way to manufacture disposable blades that were cheap yet held an edge well. In doing so, Gillette challenged at least two professions: the barber with his straight razor and the blade sharpener with his strop. It's a classic example of the principle outlined in Andy Kessler's book, Eat People. Gillette eliminated the cost and hassle of going to the barber or maintaining one's razor by providing American men with disposable blades. Now they could shave themselves cheaply and effectively at home. But that success set the stage for a pattern that would repeat itself over and over again through the 20th century. See, patents expire after 2 decades or so, and as they did, the Gillette Company and its competitors sought new patents in order to protect the lucrative disposable razor business. This drive for new patentable razor technology gave us some minor improvements in the classic double-edged safety razors, and after World War II, it gave us the Schick single-bladed Injector razor. By the 70s, most patents for the double-edged safety razor and the single-edge Injector razor had expired. This commodification of the razor blade was punishing to the profit margins of the razor companies, so the way ahead was clear: come up with new designs, patent them, and make a killing selling the disposable blades. Thus the 1970s saw the emergence of the Bic disposable razors. Why replace just the blade when you can throw out and replace the whole razor? Then, in the 1980s, Gillette introduced the double-bladed sensor cartridges. Now the question was, why throw out the whole razor when you can just replace the cartridge? Needless to say, these innovations were driven not so much by an improvement of the shaving experience, but by the need to create a technology which could be patented. Indeed, the Injector razor did not improve the shaving experience compared to the classic double-edged safety razor, and the disposable razor was in no way superior to the Injector razor. Likewise, the sensor cartridge did not improve on the disposable razor. These developments only made shaving more expensive. Of course, all these styles of razors were marketed as offering a revolutionary change in shaving. Commercials pointed out the lubricating strips, the pivoting heads, and the supposed benefits of redundant blades. Now the market is full of razors with 3 or even 4 blades mounted on cartridges so large that they can barely shave in the tight space between the nose and the upper lip. Ah, but are 4 blades 4 times better than 1 blade? If you think so, then you've drunk the Kool-Aid. In fact, the redundant blade leads to ingrown hairs, since the first blade lifts the hair up so the second blade can cut it, such that the tip of the hair retreats back beneath the skin surface. As it grows, it turns back into the skin, leading to ingrown hairs. The fact is that none of these technologies were demanded from the customer. He was perfectly satisfied with the classic double-edged safety razor. Indeed, I would argue that even today this classic design remains the best way for a man to shave safely and economically. I myself use a Mercure double-edged razor, and having tried every type of razor imaginable, find this to be the best overall style for everyday use. Here's a humorous Amazon review of the Mercure 38 HD illustrating my point. Newsflash 2008. Razor scientists have developed a radical new razor called the DE, or double-edged razor. This futuristic yet elegant device is made of durable metal instead of the usual plastic, and it is machined so well that it would be possible that a single DE razor could last the average shaver a lifetime. This new shaving device uses amazing monoblade technology that delivers a shave so close as the finest multi-blade cartridge system, but the blades are completely biodegradable and have a tiny carbon footprint. By a stroke of pure genius, the replacement blades will cost just a tenth of the classic cartridge and will actually provide 2 complete edges, in essence giving you 2 blades for the price of 1. Since there is only one cutting surface, you no longer have to worry about clogging the razor head with hair and shave cream, and the DE razor is less likely to cause bumps or other skin conditions. An excellent example of this stunning new DE razor technology is the Mercure Barber Pole DE razor. Excellent construction, fine finish, and craftsmanship combined with real heft and retro styling make this razor a real winner. Like the most state-of-the-art technology, there is a slight learning curve when using this powerful device. The razor does all the work, so don't apply any pressure and take short strokes instead of the long ones that you were using with current old-style cartridge system razor. Your small efforts will be rewarded with the knowledge that you are not only more green, but you also have the latest new tech toy on the block. In a related story, shaving researchers have created a solid shaving lubricant called a shaving soap puck. This highly concentrated pellet can provide at least as many shaves as a can of shaving foam and doesn't use propellants or a steel aerosol can. Foam is created by simply whisking a wet puck with a soft and long-life shaving brush, which is then used to apply/massage the foam on the user's face. The system is so sophisticated that unused foam is automatically recycled to be used for the next shave. Fact? Fiction? Fantasy? Outrageous exaggeration? Well, it's all true, but the basic design wasn't developed in 2008. It was developed over 100 years ago, and it is likely that your grandpa and possibly your dad used it. Stop paying $3 for a razor change. Put that cash in your pocket and give the Mercure Barber Pole DE razor a try. The article then continues. Like this reviewer, there is a growing movement of men who are rejecting the current technology in favor of the sturdy, reliable razors of yore. You only have to visit a shaving forum such as Badger & Blade to see what I mean. Sadly, most men continue to buy the patent-protected razor technology because companies like Gillette are so effective in marketing and distributing their latest gizmos. But I think the pushback is gaining momentum as more and more men come to understand that current shaving technology exists more for reasons of intellectual property than because they provide any material advantages. This lesson is a dire warning about the threat of intellectual property to our quality of life. The razor business is an old-fashioned one, not nearly as important to the lifeblood of the economy as high-tech enterprises such as Apple and Google. The Gillette effect is already starting to distort the process of innovation in high-tech sectors. Witness the ongoing patent wars over mobile technology. These developments are harbingers of what lies ahead if we continue our self-destructive obsession with intellectual property. The end result is clear. Crappy, expensive technology, which is a pain in the follicle. So that was the article, and I must say, well done. And in fact, I found this article after I did episode 47, where I talked specifically about the fact that some of the razors that we have gained over the years were exclusively because of retiring patents. And so it's just interesting. I also found it very interesting. I love the review that the guy left on Amazon for the DE razor. And that was great. I really, really enjoyed that. Anyhow, I hope you enjoyed that too. When I saw it, I thought, yeah, that's something that I really need to share because that's an excellent, excellent article. So again, Callum McKay, good job. So the point that I was trying to make with that article, and especially with the review section of that article, was this. When you were listening to the review, It sounded good. It sounded exciting. When I read the review the first time, I was like, man, I want one of these. I need one of these. It's new. It's improved. It's better. And isn't that, well, interesting? And so you find yourself kind of looking around going, okay, this is the game that's been played on me, and I realize that now, and, well, how else have I potentially, been affected by this? Because the words that were on the screen as I was reading them were just that. They were words. But the way that they were put together was exceedingly convincing. And it left me with the feeling that, hey, if I use this, I'll be doing good stuff. I'll be more sophisticated because this is new and improved, and this is much better, and this is great stuff, and, well, it's green. And you start to realize that, well, maybe there's a reason that there aren't more of us out here shaving with traditional systems. Because if you think about it, if you're faced with this kind of an onslaught every single day for everything in your life, whether you pick up a magazine at the doctor's office or whatever. I mean, watching TV, I don't watch much TV, but when I do, it's like I'm amazed by the commercials. It's incredible the amount of marketing that goes on. When you watch movies anymore, I mean, the businesses pay big money just for market placement. You know, I used to get a kick out of American Idol because they'd all be sitting there with their Coca-Cola cups that were turned strategically so that the labels would be on the camera. Yeah, and you wonder to yourself, how much did that cost Coke just to put out there? And so you begin to realize, okay, so you've got a couple of things going here. First off, you've got this marketing monster, this absolute machine. You know, even going as far as the aisles in the Target and the grocery stores, maintaining Gillette in front of you all the time. You know, and rivals having a hard time really getting any foothold because of the monstrosity that is the ever-present and already there conglomerate that is ensuring that you only have one choice, or at least that's the way it seems. And you begin to realize that, hey, there's a reason maybe that people aren't used to this. And then when you throw in the factor that, well, it's old, or, my gosh, it's, you can see the blade, it's scary. It looks like there's a lot of blade being shown and exposed. If you look at a traditional double-edged razor and you look closely, you can see, oh my gosh, you can see the edge of the blade sticking out, and it looks like it's scary. And if you have a single-edged razor, you have to hold this big blade, and, well, that's scary. And a double-edged blade, I mean, there's two edges on this thing, and you have to hold it a certain way or you can get cut, and it's scary. And when you think about it, it's like all these little things that, hey, that's, it ought to be easier than that. If I'm using a cartridge, I don't have to touch the blades. I don't have to come anywhere close to them. I can just stick the handle in a cartridge and boom, I'm done. Well, that's handy. It's kind of like the injectors. Okay, yeah, I can use an injector, but it'll spit a naked blade out on the counter. And then what do I do with it? Oh my gosh. It's much better if I have a cartridge, because then there's plastic around it, and, well, it's safer. And then I just pick it up and throw it away. And, well, it's safer. And you start to realize all of the imagery that has been thrown at you all these years in, everything that you've seen and done and everything else, and you come to the realization that, okay, there's a reason, when you think about it, that there aren't more people like us. And then you think about, okay, if it's really just the disposable razor, I mean, when you look at it, oh my gosh, the cost. I can buy 100 blades for $12. which will pay for like 2 or 3 cartridges. That 100 blades, will last me like 2 years or more. There's only 365 days a year. I can easily get 3 or 4 shaves out of each blade of just about any blade that's out there. And so you're looking at, 100 blades for, okay, we'll just say on the outside $20. That's like 2 years worth of razors for what I'd pay for about 4 replacement cartridges. That's some profit. Especially when you think of the fact that the only reason that the Gillette and those guys are actually making these things is because they're making huge profit margins. I wouldn't doubt it a bit if they sold those cartridges for $25 and it cost them 20 cents to make. Wouldn't boggle my mind at all. I doubt if the cartridges and the packaging cost the company $1. Now the marketing might cost them another $4, but I doubt that the actual product costs them much at all. It's really intriguing, and it almost becomes a sheer momentum thing, because you sit there and it's kind of like an aircraft carrier. You don't stop one of those things on a dime. Even if you go full astern, it's going to take a while before that thing slows down and starts backing up. It's just you've got this mass of moving stuff going in a certain direction, and it's going to be hard to change it. But the thing that's interesting, that's really rather appealing, is that, well, there's momentum on our side too. There's a lot more soap makers out there than there used to be. There's a lot more people making brushes. And if there wasn't a market for them, they wouldn't be making them. But they are. So that's really nice to know. But those are some of the things that we face, and those are some of the reasons that we face them. So if you ask yourself, why aren't more people doing this? It's a lot more fun. You get a lot better shave. It's a lot more relaxing. You get to experiment and play with all kinds of absolutely fantastic products that are made by artisans who, well, really care. Now, the reason that it's made by artisans and not like big companies is because, well, it's not patentable, and they can't, charge an arm and a leg and have a monopoly because nobody else can interrupt their patent. It's just one of those things. It's a business thing. And it's really important to big businesses. Small entrepreneurs, they don't care. They would hope that people don't copy their stuff, but at the same time, they're not going to jump through hoops to make sure that nobody does that. Big companies, on the other hand, they'll jump through hoops and do whatever it takes just to make sure they keep bringing the money in. But that's why they have stockholders. If you've got a 401k, you're part of that too, potentially. It's just one of those things. Anyhow, that's what I had for you today. Hopefully, you've liked this show. Well, that concludes this episode of the Brush and Soap and Blade Podcast. I hope you enjoyed listening to it as much as I enjoyed making it. If you have some suggestions or would like a topic covered, drop me an email at brushandsoapandblade@gmail.com or give me a call at 864-372-6234 or contact us on Twitter at BrushnBlade. You can also visit us at our blog, brushandsoapandblade.wordpress.com. As always, we're available on iTunes and Stitcher. I remember growing tired of the can of goo and the disposal. I now have a drawer full of electric razors. In addition to shaving with my Schick Gillette.